Welcome to Beyond the Gates, Bergen, Norway 2023. As you can probably figure out, we're not at the venue anymore, but somewhere in the more outside of the city limits. And this is a very special because this is not exactly a band that is playing there, but very much Bergen based. But let the man introduce. Sir, please state your name and status and what is the band actually we're here for?
Well, my name, the one I'm using in context of Terrestrial Hospice, which is my project or a band, call it as you want, is Shiggen. I'm doing guitars and vocals. Yeah.
You're not exactly originally from Norway, but originally started in Poland, and you are a man of many different bands.
Oh, yes.
And I think the audience now needs to know a little bit of the background. Like, could you mention some of the previous bands people should also know you for, even though we will be focusing on Terrestrial today?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I moved to Norway in 2007. I'm originally Polish, but so to say, I like to try different things in life, you know. And then at this point, when things got a bit shitty in my private life and so on in Poland, I've decided to, you know, try something new in life, you know. And then when my previous band, which was original one, which was Thunderbolt, we were on the same label as Urgehall back in the day, which was. Well, we went on a European tour together in I think it was in 2004 or something, and then we became friends with them and so on. And Thomas, the guitarist from Urgehall, invited me and my wife, girlfriend, call it as you want, but yeah, to visit Norway, you know. And then when I came here, I fell in love with the country, you know, the nature, with everything. And then I thought, why not trying this, you know? And then later on, when I didn't have money, you know, I was like fucking poor as hell. And then I just had to sell my instruments and so on to just start, you know. And then what I did, I moved to UK first, where I spent 1 year in Manchester, just earning money, just, you know, saving cash for Norway, you know. And the Urgehall guys, they live on the eastern coast, part of Norway, and then I had contacts on the west coast at the same time, and it was kind of easier for me to come here, which is like Bergen. I had contacts with Orchestus guy, another like a fucking killer band, you know, from the past. And then I came here after this 1 year, mentioned 1 year in the UK, and then, you know, I stayed at the Orchestus guy's place first, and then, you know, the rest is history. I just stayed here since then, you know. Yeah.
You've also been a live member of some of the very Norwegian-based bands, and you have had your other bands between Thunderbolt and Terrestrial Hospice. Why do you need so many bands, or are there something dramatic that has happened that you have been forced to start?
Another band of myself was which I started here in Norway already. It was Stortorum. It was a band that because at some point I just put Thunderbolt to just buried it, you know, and then I just because I didn't feel at this point I didn't feel this kind of like need to continue with that attachment to the scene as well, you know. I just fucking removed myself basically from the scene, didn't have any contacts and stuff, and you know. And then when I've met Orchestus guys, and then you had like Infernus playing there as I think he was bass guitarist in Orchestus at the time, you know. And then he was like, after a while he asked me, you know, because after all this drama with the previous vocalist and the bass player who wanted to steal his band from Infernus, he just sorted out the whole fucking thing with them, and then he asked me if I wanted to help him with live, you know, activities with Gorgoroth. Of course, I said yes, because I have respect both for the man and the legacy of Gorgoroth, which is one of the oldest bands here, you know. So yeah, and then I played with Gorgoroth for some time, and then, you know, after a while I felt like a need of starting something by myself, you know, like creating music and so on. So that's where Tortrum is from, you know. And then at the same time, of course, I was playing with Dead to This World as well, you know, which is like more like black thrash band, you know, started by Iskariach, ex-Immortal bass player, yeah. And that would be all, I guess, you know. And then now we have a Terrestrial Hospice, which is like my kind of tool of channeling the energies, you know, together with my brother Inferno, you know.
Yeah, this is worth mentioning. Not to ride with other bands' fame or anything, but of course people deserve to know that. Yeah, Inferno from Behemoth is also doing the drumming in Terrestrial Hospice, and I guess it gets kind of weird. Like these are totally two different kind of worlds and black metal bands, and of course his role as a drummer is of course a little bit different versus being in a bigger band and then just two of you doing the stuff. How does it affect your work that you have to share the drummer with such a bigger band that tours all the time? Yeah. Does it affect how you?
Yeah, well, it
play?
doesn't affect us at all because it's totally, as mentioned before, it's totally different, two different worlds. You know, Terrestrial Hospice exists on totally different plane than Behemoth. You know, and we have totally different. We don't have any like kind of goals or whatever. Just, you know, our tool to channel the energies, you know, to kind of release this darkness that we kind of, you know, have in our hearts, in our souls. This is something that we just kind of, well, I would say it's Terrestrial Hospice is easier, kind of a more safer way to release it than if I wouldn't have it, you know, if I would have to release this energy through, you know, different way, you know, in life, you know, then it could, you know, harm I could harm myself and people around me, you know, that maybe, I don't know, it could, some shit could have happened, you know, but this is the darkness that we kind of, you know,
vent out.
Yeah, exactly, you know, and then again with Inferno, it's like, it happened quite so naturally, you know, he's like, we are, sometimes I'm thinking that we are kind of a twin brothers because we think of very often like totally the same way, you know, like we don't even need to talk and it just happens, you know.
Dynamic duo.
Oh yes, and then what happened? I believe I was playing Hellfest with Gorgoroth back then. I met him. Of course, we had contact before because the Polish scene is quite small, you know. So. Yeah. I had contacts with Inferno before and all that, but we've met like on several occasions. But then we've met at Hellfest, I think. We started to talk more, and then I visited him in Warsaw in Poland at his place, and after a while we came up with this idea that, oh well, maybe it's worth to do something together because we are feeling that we lack something, you know, that we would like to kind of you know, release something together, and that's when Terrestrial was born, you know.
Magic happens.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the names. They have always puzzled me, not only the album battles, but also the band name. I mean, it's not exactly a typical
of course,
black metal name. What's the story with the band name?
Well, I would put it that way. We like you know, it's kind of a sarcastic way it's quite sarcastic way to kind of present this creature that is Terrestrial Hospice, you know, under this name. You know, terrestrial is something earthly, you know, and then hospice is a place for people that they have no hope anymore, you know, they are dying, you know. So this is like this kind of our kind of, in a way, catastrophic view on this place we are at, you know, and this in our lives, you know. And this is would be probably easy, you know, to find some, you know, some name in Goetia or you know, like some demology or whatever, but it's so standard in a way, and they wouldn't represent us as who we are, you know. And that's actually a friend of mine said, like, why the fuck you are not gonna call it something else, you know, the one that was actually writing the lyrics for the first album. And I was like, well, yeah, you have a point here, you know, why not, you know, let's do something fucking totally different, because why to follow the standards, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's about doing whatever you want, you know, we don't have, as said before, any, like, that we want to fit in or whatever in anything, you know, it's just something that has to represent us, and I think it fits us very, very well, you know, and it's, at the same time, it kind of creates this question marks on yeah, as you are
Raises questions.
yeah, exactly, and then let's fucking people to find out, read the lyrics and all that, you know. It's like, I would say it's not like standard black metal stuff you can expect, you know.
Yeah, that also is reflected with the album names. Let's start with the first one. Why did you choose the name?
It was actually a guy named Lava from a band Amok from Bergen who wrote the lyrics, and he came up with this title. It's again like it represents, you know, like Indian summer. If you know what that means, I don't know if you know what.
Super hot summer? No.
It can be like kind of summer that kind of comes in autumn time, you know, again, that it
kind of late.
Yeah. But at the same time, it can it refers as well. It can be linked to the like this period of time in life where when you're close to death, you know, and then it's like. Indian summer, in a way, like this perfect time comes, you know, when you can embrace again summer, have a happy time and whatever, and then at the same time you have mushroom clouds, which is of course nuclear weapons, fucking destruction, you know, and that was like this kind of two different kind of feelings playing, you know, like in a way poetic way, you know. That was the idea behind it, you know.
Now, you know, your new album is also counter to the general. I mean, some people, of course, can probably know the meaning and have read the historical connection, but that is also quite of a unusual title for a black metal album, even though it makes a lot of sense. Why did you choose this kind of a historical reference?
But how many albums did we have so far, you know, with the titles like kind of Let's Praise Darkness, let's you know, let's I don't know, like Burn This World, whatever, you know, just standard stuff. It was more like we were looking for something special, you know, and I by accident came by this quote in by Shakespeare, you know, Hamlet, where it was like cavalry to the general, and I was well, that sounds so weird but interesting at the same time. And when I was like checked it more, and then the meaning of it is actually as equal. It's quite equal to kind of, you know, pearl before the swine.
Exactly.
So it means like, you know, cavalry to the general, giving to the majority something that is of high value, but they don't appreciate it or understand it, you know. And then I think it fits the you know, the spirit of this album, because a lot of people they you know, nowadays especially, they can have trouble with understanding what this is all about, because it's quite old school, but at the same time you need to, you know, I guess you need to give it some kind of, you know, time, you know, to understand it, to see the whole picture, you know. So.
I remember reading some story where it was like mentioned like as a kind of a contrast, that while the normal soldiers are taking the bullets and dying, meanwhile the generals are just eating fine and, you know, fine dining.
In this context, it doesn't refer to general as a general, like in military meaning at all. General is majority.
Yeah, like a majority. Yeah.
That's it.
So like there's kind of like two different meanings in a way that can be.
Okay,
that's cool. Yeah. But you mentioned lyrics. Now, if you need to kind of describe or sum up some of the themes that you deal with, the topics in Terrestrial Hospice lyrics. How would you describe them?
Yeah, especially the new album, because the previous one was written by our close friend. So it was just he got like some hints from us, and he just wrote the whole thing, you know. But this time I just actually I was forced to do it myself, you know, and then that's how this album kind of came more even more personal than the previous one, you know. And the topics, well, they are in many cases just my experiences from my life, were what I in real life, you know, experienced, and it's like you know, it's just basically darkness that is kind of turned into words, you know, that reflects what happened, what happens, what I think, how I see the world, and my attitude towards things I hate, and you know, black metal is supposed to be about those things, you know, like these things, like destruction, you know, darkness, the negativity. That's how I see it, you know. It's not the music for, you know, yeah, to praise, you know, sounds like fucking flowers and butterflies, you know.
Happy things.
Yeah, even if I like them, you know, I like nature, I love nature, but black metal is not to do that stuff, you know.
This is something that people seem to sometimes confuse, like whatever you do in private life, and a lot of people usually, hopefully, do positive things and things that bring personal happiness, but for what I've seen, what I've at least learned in my life, and what we seem to share in common, is that a lot of us need to vent out to certain kind of the inner darkness, in a way, to just like put it in music, in lyrics, to kind of like balance things out, where we all get our personal demons and all that stuff. How much does it help you to deal with those, well, negative thoughts and inner darkness?
Well, to put it that way, if and it kind of concerns every. I mean, it's the matter of almost every artist, I guess, in black metal, because if you would just walk this path, you know, like 100%, you know, the black metal ideas and the whole, you know, way of thinking and all that, then you would be probably, I would be probably dead already, or like in a fucking mental institution and all that. So that's, I think it's quite important to have a balance on some levels, you know, and then Terrestrial Hospice gives us this opportunity, as I said before, that we can release this, you know, energy that way, you know, through the art, which is music we do, you know, instead of, you know, going out with a fucking AK-47 or something, you know, and of course, like I was following a lot of, I did a lot of, you know, well, yeah, things in life, you know, before, but I luckily I'm still here, you know, luckily maybe for some, not so luckily for others, but yeah, I'm still here. But the thing is that after a while I realized that you know, evil and darkness and those forces is something that can kind of it works both ways, you know. You need to be strong enough to handle it, you know. If you kind of are weak and can't kind of find the way, you know, then you can be fucking devoured by it, you know?
Yeah, it's like the saying, like fire is a good servant, but like a horrible master in a way.
Exactly, you know.
So you have to kind of focus your destructive energies, ideas outside safely.
I mean, maybe not safely, but it's more about like to do it like in
controlled way,
maybe not controlled, but conscious way.
Yeah,
okay. That's what I would say, you know, because you need to you know, it's like about everything, you know, like if I've met people in my life that were dealing with black magic and stuff like that without even having this strength,
Yeah.
and then they already dead or they were put in fucking mental institutions and stuff like that. You need to be you need to maybe ask yourself beforehand if you are
Ready.
really kind of build for that. Yeah.
Now that brings us to the very next topic is that before we started, doing this interview, we're having talk about substances, alcohol, drugs, and all that stuff, and how they can also mess heads. And of course, they're a big part of any kind of a music industry. People, drinking too much, people doing drugs. And you told me that you just basically decided to quit all the drinking many, many years ago.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate? What's your story and how has it changed?
When I was a teenager and in my early 20s, I was like, it was a total, fucking chaos. I was like doing a lot of, crazy stuff, so to say.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I was using a lot of different substances, and then, after a while, it kind of built this anxiety in me and stuff, I was struggling with, and I struggle sometimes to this day, with that stuff, and well, that was the only way, I guess, because otherwise I would be dead or prison, dead, or fucking mental institution.
Yeah.
That's it. So I decided, well, maybe it's better to stay here for a bit longer, maybe, So and then I quit everything in 2003, and that's it. It's been like this since then, I miss it sometimes a bit because I think in this fucked up world, it's a good thing, to get fucking destroyed sometimes and to kind of have a mental reset,
Yeah.
But I don't miss it that much, so I can kind of handle it, But those like experiences gave me a lot of inspiration, drinking a couple of beers, eating mushrooms, or smoking weed and going to a forest alone with a headset with cold meat industry stuff. Alone, in the night. That's I would say quite inspiring thing, listening to August or Bride or Death Now. And
Death, industrial, dark ambient, and all that.
That was something that can inspire you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite,
has it helped you when we was talking about this, handling the inner demons and darkness? Has helped that giving up on drinking and doing drugs or whatever to be a stronger person?
Yeah, well, then I focused more on a conscious, more conscious, or maybe a bit more thought out side of existence in a way. Then I could maybe create something more available and more thought out and so on. Of course, it doesn't always work best way, but I kind of focus on other things, I've discovered, mountaineering, climbing, stuff like that. I did that, instead of getting shit-faced, to put it simple, But again, the substances can of course help you with the spiritual side of life, like rituals and so on, of course, but I can do it through other kind of techniques, meditation, yoga, and so on, which I prefer these days.
Yeah. Now talking about hiking and mountaineering, of course, now me here in the Bergen, the first time, I now finally understand way better these bands, looking at the gorgeous mountainside and the islands and green forests and all that stuff. How much this nature, you mentioned that it means a lot to you, but how big change it was coming to Norway, see these mountains and see the inspiration that they've given to so many bands versus doing the stuff in Poland, for example.
Well, where I am from, it's quite like a fucking, flat place, but not far from that, there is mountains as well. So I am not that, it wasn't like so uncommon for me because since I was a very young, from a very young age, we were going to mountains with family, doing skiing and so on. Poland has a beautiful mountains, almost the whole southern part of Poland is mountains, but Norway is something else, you just have mountains like 100 meters from here, so that's a different story, but nature has a lot of impact on us here, it's like, can be both rewarding and destructible, I would say, because when, especially here in Bergen, when you have those like fucking periods of rain, like 3 months in a row every day, it can destroy your head quite well, but like walking in the mountains and like reflecting and staying in the forest alone and all that, it gives you so much energy, it's so rewarding. And then I found, of course, climbing, as mentioned before, which makes it even more kind of extreme, to the outside world kind of, because to people you are doing it with is just normal thing, but yeah, this is my kind of another kind of passion, it's not a hobby, it's like a passion, I love it so much, I do it on almost daily basis now, so yeah.
How do you feel this Bergen scene that you are now being part of quite some time? How do you feel, in your opinion, the legendary Norwegian black metal scene all around?
Well, I wouldn't say that I am that much connected with it. Now I of course know some guys from old bands and so on, and I played with them and all that, but I think there is, except a few, examples, I don't want to, I'm not so kind of this guy that likes to mention names and so on, but I would say that I can agree with opinion that it kind of lost its curse a bit, you know it by yourself, I guess, and then you have some people that are still kind of keeping the flame burning and carrying the torch further, but you have so many bands that kind of lost its this original core, and those values are not so it's not so important to them anymore, so I don't know, I just kind of I just stick to a kind of, I just hold this whole thing more to myself, then I feel like a part of this whole thing. Of course, as I said before, I respect a lot of people, but at the same time I'm kind of standing in a shadow,
Like taking a little bit of distance to the very core. Now, comparing to the previous life, if you can call it that, in Poland, how was the scene as opposed to nowadays Norway versus how different it is? Or
well, it was totally different times. It was the times where straight after all those famous things in Norway happened, like all the churches and blah blah blah, killings and so on, and when I joined the scene, I was just a teenager. I was like I started actually because I went first to musical school as a kid, so I learned guitar and all that, and I got into metal music at a very young age. I was just, listening to fucking, King Diamond, and when I was maybe 9 or something, it's crazy, but that's how it was, and then I had this kind of, I'd say I had this kind of rebellious spirit within myself since I was a very young kid, because the standard way of living in Poland, or how you fucking call it, but it was like people who were like in a Catholic country, people are getting baptized, and then you have this first communion and blah blah blah. But when I was at this age, when the first communion is, I think it's like 9 or something, you know, I already was skipping fucking religion classes. They didn't wanna let me do it because I already hated it back then. You know, like people telling me do this, do that, blah blah blah. And then I discovered, of course, King Diamond, and I was like so fucking totally, you know, I was sold, you know, my soul was there, you know, already. And then, you know, I just got more and more into the metal, blah blah, and after a while I discovered black metal, of course, and then I got in touch because they were closest to us, you know, the guys, because we were from more or less the same area where I met or got in contact via like letters back then, of course, no internet and so on. Writing letters with the guys from, you know, Graveland, bands like that, you know, because they were basically just living very close to us, you know. And then we got kind of, we met them after a while, like Infernum guy, who is dead now, by the way, and then Graveland and so on. Then I was already making music in for Thunderbolt, you know, back then, like as a teenager. Yeah, and then the scene was like Poland was basically divided by South and North. North was Behemoth and some other acts, and then you had South with, you know, bands like Graveland, Infernum, Full Moon, Veles, so on, you know.
Yeah. Kind of a roar.
Oh yeah, and more, I would say, and these guys were like more, well, how to call it, maybe more about putting words into action instead of just focusing on music, you know. And we as a kids, we were so kind of inspired by that, you know, because we felt it was the right path for us, you know, to do it this way, more extreme way, more way that you kind of, because we are just fucking fanatics, you know, and then we're ready to die for it, you know. And then of course another story was that it came to this thing that, you know, Poland was very inspired by Norway back then, of course, it's not a big fucking secret, you know, and there was a lot of stuff like organizations and so on, quite similar to Inner Circle, you know, Norwegian one and so on. And we were like, you know, I was like fucking, you know, 15, 16, you know, back then. I didn't even tell the guys how old I was, because they would probably kick me out because go
play with your Legos.
And then you know, everything came from hearing, basically, like all those ideas about, you know, churches and so on. We just carried the torch further, you know. And all those things happened on the Polish soil as well, but luckily enough, maybe the police wasn't smart enough, you know. So some people are still here instead of behind bars, you know. Yeah, but what else? Of course, then again, this thing came, you know, with those infamous, you know, political stuff. You know?
That was, I was wondering, that's that Polish scene seemed to differ from Norwegian, sense that there was like this right-wing politics.
I wouldn't say it differs, because if you would dig a bit, you know, it's not a big fucking secret that when that Bursum came with these things early on, and then of course it kind of came to Poland as well, you know, where some guys kind of got so hooked on it, you know, because.
And of course there are other Norwegian bands where we're not going to be naming and shaming, but I remember those details.
Yeah, but if you would read all the interviews with the biggest bands even existing today, you can fucking find these things. But
there are sketchy ones.
But somehow they got kind of forgotten, or maybe they got forgiven, or whatever, you know.
I know one band that got forgiven for certain text on the back of the albums.
Yeah, what do you mean? I mean, like you see, the bigger the band, the bigger bigger label backing them up, and then more influences, more power, then they can fix things, you know. That's the thing, but it's way easier to attack a small band that is like, you know, that it's doesn't have any, you know, force to do something to defend itself.
It's easier to bully smaller ones.
Of course, but what I wanted to say, and then, you know, with all this political stuff, it was to us as a kid, what the fuck you can expect from a teenager like, you know, 15, 16 years old to understand these things? No, it was the matter of making it more extreme. That was the only thing, you know, to make it even more fucking extreme, because black metal in its base, it was like if you would read like all the Euronymous interviews and his kind of statements and so on, it was the total pure fucking counterculture. It was something created to, you know, to say fuck off to both the you know, the metal scene of those days and the modern world, you know, basically.
Yeah, basically anti-establishment.
Yeah, like fucking, yeah, exactly, you know, fuck off to everything around, you know.
So you got your own kind of like shadow thrown at you for those political things with Thunderbolt and stuff.
Of course, because back then I did say, you know, it didn't come further than that, but at least did say some stuff without even thinking about it. Basically, you know, much, you know, without thinking about any consequences and so on. Just a matter of to be extreme, you know, and yes, and these things kind of dooms you in this modern world for the rest of your days. It looks like it, you know. I would say it's like these days in this world where everything has to be correct and everything has to follow the common fucking stream of thinking, of seeing things and so on. These things, I would say, it's like maybe sometimes as equal as, I don't know, if you would do crimes like fucking raping someone or whatever.
Now that's curious thing. What I've been wondering, like there are bands who have like members who have murdered an actual person, being in a prison for like 10, 20 years, and when once you're out of the system, you're like forgiven. But if you say certain statements, you don't get punished. You don't get.
I mean, I've said it so many times, you know, like throughout the years, and I don't fucking want to repeat myself because it's no point. It's like, you know, talking to this glass, you know, and expecting answer. It's these guys, these forces or whatever it is, those fucking parasites that are kind of trying to you know, cancel everything these days. It's like, you know, if I'd ask this glass about, hey glass, how the fuck you think the weather is today? You like it today? No answer, you know, and that's how it works, you know, discussing with these guys. They never show up to you know, to kind of confront you, you know. And the problem is, like in the 90s there was no internet, so it was kind of different. And then you know, these people wouldn't be here anyway, because back then you had to represent something, you know, to be part of the scene, to be valuable. I mean, to have some values and have some, you know, strength. You know, today it's like so totally different world, you know. And speaking of that, what you mentioned before, yeah, it's like so weird, because think about killing, for example, a gay man today, you know, and saying afterwards that you are proud of what you've done, you know, and all that, and then you would be fucking erased from this fucking planet, basically. Like no future at you know, society, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then here you have, in those like examples, you have guys that are you know, playing around you know, on the biggest festivals and so on, and there is no problem about that, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of an imbalance.
Oh yes, and then again, like yeah, like kind of no one remembers that, you know, anymore, and all that. It's so fucking hypocritical, you know.
Yeah, double standards.
But I would say, in a way, I've noticed that that there is some kind of agenda that it might be that, you know, that there is something about, maybe I'm not a fan of conspiracy theories or all that shit, but well, I've heard it on several occasions, you know, like that Poland is this or that country, Hungary. Maybe it's because of the governments that are there, you know, and they are quite kind of more like to this side, the right side, whatever. I don't give a shit. But maybe there is kind of an agenda that these countries are more kind of as a target, you know, to those forces, you know, to like fucking, you know, try to smash it or whatever. But it's so stupid that I mean, it shows a bit a weakness of metal people as well these days, because as mentioned before, before you had to prove that you're fucking strong, you can stand for your views or your own whatever, to be a, you know, some strong character, you know. Today it's like some, you know, retard sitting behind his computer sending threats to the local venues and all that, and the tours are getting cancelled and all that, you know, and you have like, for example, Tuake going to Australia, and then everything is fucking ready, like merchandise, flights, whatever, and suddenly some fucking retard is sitting behind his computer sending like emails, and the whole thing is cancelled, you know. It's
and people lose jobs.
yeah, exactly, you know. And then again, you know, that's funny story with when you can, you know, these days offend, you know, Christianity the way you want, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, what you say about it, and it's like so accepted, you know.
Yeah.
But if you say anything against any other Abrahamic religion, which is like as equal fucking thing, you know, even worse these days, I would say, maybe, you know. Then they link it at the same time to racism. You
yeah,
know?
which is totally different.
It's like what the fuck, you
like
know?
once again, double
like
standards.
especially one of those religions. It's like a, you know, middle-aged form of Christianity, where they are still today killing people, beheading them and all that, and at the same time, you know. People are kind of accepting it, and then if you say something against it, then you're this or that, you know, and they just have bombs and guns today, while before Christians had swords and fire.
Yeah, the same patterns happens. I've also find it kind of weird that people are like, hey, women's rights are very important. I think they are. At the same time, certain people like forgiven. Oh, you throw stone at ladies, but that's a different thing. That's like
It's this world. I'm so happy that I have, you know, this my things, you know, my world, my climbing, all that. I can fuck off to the nature, and I don't need to look at it and think about it, and you know, it's because I think it goes just straight down the drain. If it will continue that way, it's not gonna fucking last long, you know.
All right. Now we are deep into the horrible hole of politics and religions. Let's climb back up and start going towards the end. Let's focus back on the band. Will there be Terrestrial Hospice live?
Well, for now we didn't. We don't have any plans for that at this point, and then what I have to say is like we just need to wait for a certain moment, and maybe one day or night we will feel a need for that, you know. But at this point we don't have any plans. So once we were quite close to do so, because we've got invited by you know, legends, by Mighty fucking Revenge, you know, to support them on a Polish leg of their European tour. But the whole thing just, you know, collapsed under the COVID-19 pressure, you know, so it didn't happen, unfortunately. But well, this is something I don't miss that much about the live activity of a black metal band, but at the same time, this is the kind of very special way to channel your energy, you know. And I would like to. I will not say never, but I can't say any certain words now. But let's keep the faith, you know, and then I think it would be something to remember, you know, if it will happen.
All right. Now you only have 2 albums out by now.
But you have an EP.
Now, which of these releases would, in your opinion, be the good starting point for a new fan, which we're hoping to make here, to start listening to Terrestrial Hospice?
I would say it's both of them represent I value them quite equally because they just represent those times, you know, when they were created, recorded, and all that. But maybe the last one is more kind of a personal one because that's the one where I recorded. I mean, I've written all the lyrics except of the one that was written by a very dear friend to the band, you know. And it's so personal, and as well it comes from this really dark period in our lives. Both me and Inferno were going through some very dark, you know, things back then when it was written, you know.
Yeah.
So I think both of them are as equal representative as you can get, you know. So let's pick the one, you know. You I don't know.
I would say they're both equal in quality. Great albums.
Thank you.
But of course, by this time, because the album is already out, by this time the video comes out, probably at least more than 6 months, you have already killed your darlings, so to say. So you must be also writing probably new material.
Oh yeah.
And will it be different or the same path? Or
well, I have like maybe fucking 200 riffs on my mobile phone because I function in a very retarded way with writing music. I don't even have you know, like any programs on the computer where I can record my riffs. So I did it the old school way, just record it on my fucking mobile phone, which maybe I have to kind of move on a bit from that because Inferno got so tired with that and all that. I'm just sending him all the time new riffs, yeah, via messages and all that, blah blah blah. But and of course saying imagine drums like this and that, you know. So yeah, well, I have as said maybe about 200 riffs, so I not need to go through them and just figure out what is worth, what is not worth, and all that. But we actually rehearsed one song already, which will be maybe quite a surprise if we will record that one. I mean, we will probably record it, but if it's gonna end up on the next album, it's a bit uncertain. It's very epic and very sad in a way, melancholic, but that's how I felt the recent kind of maybe half a year or something. I was going through some, yeah, again, like some fucking shit, you know, so maybe that's it represents this time, you know. So it's very, like, I would say, maybe a bit tiny touch of Bursum battery and even some Greek scene, you know, like Macabre Omen or Rotting Christ, stuff like that.
so old school.
Yeah, but I mean, like this is the way we kind of, maybe we are too old to make it modern way, you know. So this is, you know, Terrestrial Hospice basically just is something that we would as like listeners like to listen to, you know, that really represents our musical tastes as well, you know. So but actually we've recorded 4 more songs while covered to the general session, so it's gonna be out later at some point as well in form of a smaller release, either be it a split with someone or maybe some, like, you know, EP or something, you know.
All
so
right.
It's something in the making as well. Yeah.
Something to wait for. All right. Now audience needs to know that we're gonna go out, we're gonna go take a look at the nature and all that stuff. So these are time to say goodbye. Any words of wisdom you want to share with the audience before we travel out?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm not so good in that, but yeah, I would say maybe fuck the modern world's values. That would be quite interesting. Yeah, and think yourself. Don't follow the you know, commonly accepted currents. Yeah.
So keep questioning the rules that may be and follow your own path. This is Rauta. This is Terrestrial Hospice, Bergen, Norway, 2023. Enjoy some good music by them and see you again.